The ship landed on Earth on a cold morning in December. The sky was and the wind was strong. Hundreds of people had come to watch. Soldiers stood in neat lines. News cameras pointed at the landing zone. Everyone wanted to see the aliens. The ship was beautiful. It looked like a giant insect made of metal and glass. Its wings folded slowly as it touched the ground. Steam rose from its engines. Then the door opened and they walked out. Ambassador was tall and thin. She had 4 arms and wings that shimmered like oil on water. Her eyes were large and black. She moved in a strange way, like a dancer who had too many joints. Behind her came other, carrying boxes and containers. The human diplomats stepped forward to greet them. They smiled and bowed. They said nice words about friendship and cooperation. Ambassador made clicking sounds with her mouth parts. Her translator device turned the clicks into words. "We bring gifts for the people of Earth," she said, "to celebrate our new relationship." They opened their boxes one by one. They showed the humans beautiful crystals that glowed with inner light. They presented machines that could clean water and purify air. They gave them seeds for plants that could grow food in any soil. The humans clapped and smiled. The cameras recorded everything. Then they brought out the last gift. It was a cage, but this was not a normal cage. It was made of energy, a shimmering blue field that hummed softly. Inside the field was a creature. Saw it first. She was 12 years old and she had come with her father, Dr. Park. He was the head of Earth's Xenobiology Division, which meant he studied alien life forms. Found most diplomatic events boring, but she liked to look at the aliens. She liked to imagine what their homes were like, what they ate, what games their children played. But when she saw the creature in the cage, she forgot about everything else. It was like a cat, but much bigger. It had 6 legs instead of 4. Its body was the size of a small car. Its fur was silver and black with streaks of red, like the colors of a dying fire. It had a long tail that ended in a tuft of dark hair. Its face was broad and flat, with a mouth full of teeth that looked like knives. But the creature was sick, could see that immediately. Its fur was falling out in patches. Its eyes were clouded and dull. It breathed in short, painful gasps. It lay on the floor of its cage like it had given up on life. "This is Ambassador said. Her voice sounded strange. Thought she might be enjoying this moment. "It is one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. This particular specimen is very old. It is dying from a disease that our doctors cannot cure." The human diplomats looked confused. Why would anyone give a dying animal as a gift? "We thought," continued, "that your scientists might want to study it. Perhaps they can learn something from its final days." Understood then. This was not a gift. This was an insult. The aliens were giving humans a broken thing, a dying thing. They expected humans to fail. They wanted to show that humans were weak and stupid. But was not looking at the ambassadors. She was looking at the creature, It turned its head slowly. Through the clouded eyes it looked at her, just for a moment, and felt something pass between them. She did not know what it was. It was like a question and an answer at the same time. She started walking before she knew what she was doing. Her father called, "Come back here." But she did not stop. She walked past the soldiers. She walked past the diplomats. She walked right up to the energy cage. Ambassador made a sharp clicking sound. "Child, step away from the containment field. This creature has killed 17 of our handlers. Even in its weakened state, it is extremely dangerous." Did not listen. She was looking at up close she could see how thin it was. She could see the bones pushing against its skin. She could smell something sour and sad coming from its body. The smell of sickness. The smell of giving up. "She is scared," said softly. The diplomats and aliens went quiet. Nobody spoke. "She is scared and she is alone," continued. "And nobody is helping her. Everybody just watches her die." Her father had reached her now. He put his hand on her shoulder. "We need to go back, this is not safe," but had found something on the cage, a small panel with buttons. She had seen her father use similar controls in his laboratory. She pressed the buttons quickly before anyone could stop her. The energy field flickered and died. The was free. Everything happened at once. Soldiers raised their weapons, diplomats screamed, ambassadors' wings buzzed so fast they became a blur. The moved, even sick, even dying, it was fast, faster than anything had ever seen. It lunged forward, its mouth open, its teeth gleaming. Did not run. She did not scream. She simply raised her small hand and placed it on the creature's nose. "It is okay," she whispered. "I am here now. You are not alone anymore." The stopped. Its mouth closed slowly. Its clouded eyes looked into clear ones. Something changed in that moment. Something that nobody in the galaxy had ever seen before. The most dangerous predator in the known universe lowered its massive head and pressed it gently against a human child's chest, and wrapped her arms around it as far as they would go. "I will call you," she said softly. "It means spring, because spring always comes after winter, and your winter is going to end now, I promise." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the wind and the soft rumble that came from this chest. It was purring. 3 weeks passed after that day at the landing zone. The news channels could not stop talking about what had happened. They showed the video again and again. The small human girl, the dying alien beast, the moment when death became something else, was moved to a special building at the Xenobiology Center. It was a large room with soft floors and warm lights. There were windows that showed the sky and the trees outside. Dr. Park had designed it himself. He wanted it to feel safe, but did not care about the room. She only cared about one thing. She only cared about. Every day came to visit after school. She would sit on the floor next to his huge body. She would talk to her about her day. She would tell her about her friends and her teachers. She would read her stories from books. Sometimes she would sing songs that her mother had taught her when she was small. And every day got a little bit better. The scientists could not believe it. They sent their best doctors to examine the. They ran tests and took samples. They looked at the data again and again, but they could not understand what was happening. Specialist was this top expert on biology. He was a thin creature with too many eyes and a voice like grinding stones. He stood outside the observation window and watched brush fur with a special comb. "This is not possible," he said to Dr. Park, who stood beside him. "The cellular damage should be permanent. The neural decay should be irreversible. This creature was dying. Our best calculations said it had 6 days left. That was 23 days ago." Dr. Park watched his daughter through the glass. His head was in his lap. The creature's eyes were closed and its breathing was slow and peaceful. The patches where fur had fallen out were starting to grow back. The cloudiness in its eyes was fading. "I do not understand it either," Dr. Park admitted. "We have run every test we can think of. We have found nothing unusual. No special chemicals. No strange energy. Just a girl and an animal." "But do not bond with other creatures," said. His many eyes blinked in confusion. "They are solitary predators. They do not form attachments. They do not feel affection. They feel only hunger and rage." "Maybe you do not know them as well as you think," Dr. Park said quietly. Inside the room was telling about her brother, was 16 years old. He was tall and quiet, and he spent most of his time playing video games or reading comic books. He had been afraid of at first, very afraid. When their father had told the family that they would be staying at the center, had said it was crazy. He had said that the creature would kill them all, but had asked him to come and visit, just once, just to see. Had stood at the door of the room, his hands shaking. Had raised her massive head and looked at him. Her eyes, clearer now, had studied him carefully. Then she had made a sound, a low, soft sound, not a growl, not a warning, more like a question. She wants to know if you are part of my family, had said. She wants to know if she should protect you too. Had not known what to say. He had just stood there frozen. Then had lowered her head and gone back to sleep. She had accepted him. She had decided that he was worth protecting. After that, visited every day too. The news of recovery spread across the galaxy. Ships from dozens of worlds came to Earth just to see the footage. That should have died. The human child who saved it. The bond that nobody could explain. Ambassador watched the reports from her ship in orbit. She did not like what she saw. They had given to the humans as a joke. It was supposed to die in their hands. It was supposed to prove that humans were primitive and foolish. But instead, the humans had done the impossible. They had healed a creature that the greatest doctors had given up on. Called a meeting with her advisors. They gathered in her chamber, their wings buzzing with worry. This changes things, one advisor said. The humans have shown abilities we did not expect. If they can heal what else can they do? It is just one creature, another advisor said. It means nothing. It means everything, said sharply. Do you not see? The other species are watching. They are asking questions. They want to know how the humans did this. They want to know what makes humans different. She turned to look at the screen where an image of and played on a loop. The girl was sleeping now, curled up against this warm side. His great tail was wrapped around her like a blanket. The creature's eyes were open, watching the door, guarding, protecting. That was supposed to be worthless, said slowly. We threw it away like garbage, and now look at it, strong, healthy, loyal. The humans took our trash and made it into something precious. She was quiet for a long moment, then she spoke again. We need to get it back, before anyone else realizes what this means. Her advisors looked at each other nervously. They knew what she was thinking. They knew it was dangerous, but none of them had the courage to say no. Far below, on the surface of Earth, slept peacefully against side. She did not know about the meeting in orbit. She did not know about the plans being made. She only knew that her friend was getting better, day by day, and that made her happy. Knew more. She could smell the changes in the air. She could feel the tension that even humans could not sense. Her eyes stayed open through the night, watching, waiting. Something was coming, and she would be ready. 6 months had passed since came to Earth. She was completely healthy now. Her fur was thick and beautiful, shining like silver fire in the sunlight. Her eyes were bright amber, sharp and intelligent. Her muscles moved like water under her skin. She was magnificent. And she never left side. At first the government said it was too dangerous. I could not live with a human family. It was too big, too strong, too wild. But had cried for 3 days without stopping. Had refused to eat. She had pressed herself against the door of her room and made sounds that broke everyone's heart. So Dr. Park had built a special addition to their house. A large room with reinforced walls and a door big enough for her to walk through. They moved in on a sunny spring morning, and she had not spent a single night away from since. The Park family learned to live with their strange new member. His mother had been scared at first. She was a small woman with gentle hands and a soft voice. She taught music at a local school. The idea of a giant predator living in her home seemed like madness. But then she saw how acted around her children. The way they would lie perfectly still while climbed on her back. The way she would walk so carefully when she was near the furniture. The way she would wait patiently at the door each morning until came downstairs, and only then would she eat her breakfast. She counts us, said one evening, watching, eyes move from person to person as the family gathered for dinner. She checks that we are all here. She makes sure nobody is missing. Laughed. He was not afraid anymore. Sometimes he would sit within the garden and tell her about his problems, about school, about girls, about feeling like he did not fit in anywhere. Would listen with her head tilted to one side, making soft sounds that seemed to say she understood. She is part of the family now, he said. Weird, right? A few months ago I thought she would eat us. Now I cannot imagine the house without her." Smiled and scratched behind ears. The closed her eyes and purred. The sound was so deep that the water in the glasses on the table rippled. But outside the warm circle of the Park family, trouble was growing. The Galactic Council met on a space station far from Earth. Representatives from 112 species sat in a great circular chamber. They argued about trade agreements and territorial disputes. They discussed new technologies and old conflicts, and they talked about the humans. Ambassador had formed an alliance with the collective. There were reptilian creatures, tall and covered in dark green scales. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. They conquered worlds and enslaved weaker species. They respected nothing but power. Commander was their representative. He was huge even for a. His eyes were yellow and cold like a snake's. His voice was deep and harsh. "The humans have become a problem," he said to the council. "They have acquired they have somehow tamed it. This is a weapon of great power. They must not be allowed to keep it." The other representatives murmured among themselves. Some agreed. Some did not. Many were simply curious about the strange humans who had done what no other species could do. "There was a gift," said a delegate from a small peaceful species who traded with Earth. "They gave it freely. They cannot demand it back now." "The gift was made in error," said quickly. Her wings buzzed with irritation. "The creature was dying. It had no value. Now it is healthy. The situation has changed." "So you want it back because it is valuable now?" they asked. "That does not seem fair." "Fair?" Commander stood up. He was so tall that his head nearly touched the ceiling. "We are not talking about fairness. We are talking about security. He is one of the most dangerous life forms in the galaxy, and now it is bonded to a human child. What happens when that child grows up? What happens when she learns to control this weapon? The humans could use it against us." "The humans have shown no desire for conflict," another delegate said. "They only want peace and trade." "All species say that," growled, "until they become strong enough to take what they want." The debate went on for hours. Finally, a vote was called. It was close, but the result was not what N had hoped for. The council decided that the belonged to the humans. It was a gift, freely given. It could not be taken back. Was furious. He left the chamber without speaking to anyone, but followed him. "The council has made its decision," she said when they were alone. "But the council cannot see everything." Turned to look at her, his cold eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that sometimes problems must be solved quietly," said. "Away from the eyes of politics and law. I am suggesting that we take the ourselves." Was silent for a moment. Then his thin lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "I have a team," he said. "Specialists. They can get in and out before anyone knows what happened." "Do it tonight," said, "before the humans can prepare." Nodded and walked away. His heavy footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. On Earth, the sun was setting, was finishing her homework at the kitchen table, lay nearby, her tail swishing lazily across the floor. The house was warm and smelled like the soup was cooking for dinner. Nobody knew what was coming. Nobody sensed the danger. But as the sky grew dark, ears moved forward. Her eyes opened. Her nostrils flared as she tasted the air. Something was wrong. She did not know what it was yet, but she would be ready. The attack came at 3 in the morning, when the world was dark and silent. The ship descended through the clouds without making a sound. It was painted black and had special shields that made it invisible to radar. It landed in the forest behind the Park family's house. 8 soldiers climbed out. They wore heavy armor made of metal and energy fields. They carried weapons that could burn through walls. They had been trained to fight and kill since they were children. They had never failed a mission. Their leader was called Sergeant. He was smaller than most but twice as mean. His face was covered in scars from old battles. He looked at the house through his helmet's sensors. 4 life forms inside, he said quietly to his team. 3 humans. 1, remember, we need the beast alive. The humans are acceptable losses. The soldiers moved through the garden like shadows. They reached the back door and used a special device to break the lock without making noise. The door swung open silently. They stepped inside. The house was dark. The soldiers turned on their night vision. They saw the kitchen, clean and tidy. They saw the living room with its comfortable chairs and family photos on the walls. They saw the stairs leading up to the bedrooms. Pointed upward, the soldiers nodded and began to climb. They did not see the shadow that detached itself from the darkness behind them. Had been awake for hours. She had smelled them coming from far away. Strange scents, metal and oil and something reptilian, something that reminded her of cold blood and dead things. She had moved silently through the house, positioning herself between the danger and her family. Her body was pressed flat against the floor, every muscle ready to explode into motion. Her eyes glowed softly in the darkness. She waited. The first soldier reached the top of the stairs. He turned towards room. His hand reached for the door handle. Struck. There was no warning, no sound. One moment the soldier was standing, the next moment his body was falling back down the stairs in 2 separate pieces. Claws had gone through his armor like paper. The other soldiers spun around. Their weapons came up, but was already gone, melting back into the shadows. Contact, shouted. The beast is loose, watch your backs. The soldiers formed a circle, their backs to each other, their weapons pointing outward. They moved slowly down the hallway. Their sensors showed nothing. Their night vision showed only empty space. Then another soldier died. Came from above this time, dropping from a place where she had braced herself against the ceiling. Her jaws closed around the soldier's head before he could make a sound. She was gone again before the body hit the floor. The remaining soldiers began to panic. They fired their weapons into the darkness. Energy blasts burned holes in the walls and floor, but they hit nothing. That was too fast, too smart, too silent. Backed toward a wall, his heart was beating so hard he could hear it in his ears. He had fought many enemies in his life. He had never felt fear like this. Retreat, he ordered. Get back to the ship. But there was no retreat. Appeared in the doorway to the stairs, blocking their escape. Her eyes burned like golden fire. Her fur stood up along her back. Her mouth was open, showing teeth stained with dark blood. She roared. The sound was so loud that windows shattered throughout the neighborhood. Car alarms went off for blocks in every direction. Dogs howled in terror. Birds exploded from trees and flew into the night sky. 2 soldiers broke formation and ran. They did not get far. Was left with only 3 soldiers now. He raised his weapon and fired directly at. The plasma bolt hit her in the side. She screamed in pain and stumbled. Now shouted, take her down. The soldiers fired again and again. Was hit twice more. She fell to her knees, blood pouring from her wounds. The glow in her eyes flickered. BOMI appeared at the top of the stairs. She was wearing pajamas covered in cartoon characters. Her hair was messy from sleep. She ran down the stairs and threw herself over his body. Stop hurting her, please stop. Walked forward slowly. His weapon was pointed at the girl. Move away from the creature, human. This does not need to involve you. She is my family, cried. Tears streamed down her face. You cannot take her. She is my family. Your family is irrelevant, said. The belongs to us now. Step aside or... He never finished the sentence. Came out of the shadows behind the soldiers. He was holding a baseball bat. It was an old bat, wooden, the kind his father had used when he was young. Against armor, it should have been useless. But did not care. He swung it with all his strength at the nearest soldier's head. The soldier staggered, surprised by the attack from behind. That moment of confusion was enough. Surged up from the floor, wounded, bleeding, but not beaten, never beaten. She moved through the remaining soldiers like a storm made of claws and teeth, tried to run. He made it 3 steps before jaws closed around his leg. Seconds later, it was over. The house was silent except for heavy breathing. Collapsed onto the floor, her blood spreading across the carpet. Rushed to her side, pressing her small hands against the wounds. "No, no, no," she sobbed. "Please do not die, please, I cannot lose you." The rest of the family appeared, screamed when she saw the bodies. Dr. Park immediately called for emergency help, dropped the bat and fell to his knees, shaking. His eyes found face. With great effort she lifted her massive head. Her rough tongue, so large and dangerous, gently touched the tears on his cheeks. She was saying something. Did not know how she understood, but she did. "I am here, I will always protect you. You are my family too." Wrapped her arms around his neck and held her tight. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please stay with me." His eyes closed, but she was still breathing, still fighting. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise, and somewhere in orbit, Ambassador received news of the failed mission. She knew then that everything had changed. The Galactic Council chamber was packed with more representatives than it had ever held before. Species from across the galaxy had come to witness this moment. News drones flew through the air, capturing everything. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds were watching. Dr. Park stood at the center of the chamber. He was wearing a simple suit. His face was tired but calm. Behind him, on a massive screen, images played on a loop. The destroyed armor of the soldiers. The blood stains on his family's floor. His daughter, sitting in a hospital garden holding a bandaged. "3 days ago," Dr. Park began, his voice steady, "soldiers broke into my home in the middle of the night. They came to steal they came to hurt my family. They did not care that my children were sleeping. They did not care that we had done nothing wrong." He paused and looked around the chamber. His eyes found Ambassador, who sat very still, her wings pressed flat against her back. He found Commander, who stared back with cold hatred. "We did not ask for this," Dr. Park continued. "We did not ask for enemies. We only wanted to live in peace. We only wanted to be part of your galactic community, and in return, you sent killers to murder my family." The chamber was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "The vet you gave us was dying," Dr. Park said. "You threw her away like garbage because she was no longer useful to you. My daughter, a 12-year-old girl, saw something different. She saw a living being that deserved care. She saw a creature that needed love." The screen behind him changed. Now it showed in the hospital garden. His head was in her lap. The wounds were wrapped in white bandages, but her eyes were open and alert, was reading to her from a picture book, pointing at the illustrations and explaining them in her soft voice. "This is what humans do," Dr. Park said. "This is who we are. We do not see weapons when we look at other creatures. We do not see tools or resources to be used and thrown away. We see beings who feel pain and fear and loneliness. We see beings who deserve kindness." He turned to face Commander directly. "You see weapons everywhere you look," Dr. Park said. "When you look at you see a killing machine. When you look at my daughter, you see a threat that must be eliminated. But that says nothing about us. It says everything about you." Rose to his feet. His scales had turned dark with anger. "You dare to lecture us. You humans are infants in this galaxy. You know nothing of power or—" "We know enough," Dr. Park interrupted. His voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath it. "We know that your soldiers, trained killers with the best weapons in the galaxy, were defeated by one wounded animal and a teenage boy with a baseball bat. We know that your mighty collective cannot handle a creature that a human child healed with nothing but love." Opened his mouth, but no words came out. He sat down heavily. Dr. Park turned back to the full assembly. "We do not want war," he said. We do not want to conquer anyone. We only want to be left in peace. But if anyone threatens our families again, if anyone comes for our children again, they will discover something important about humans." He paused. "We never give up. We never stop fighting for the ones we love. And we never, ever abandon those who depend on us." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, representatives began to stand. They stood first, their small bodies trembling with emotion. Then they, with their long necks and gentle faces. Then more and more until half the chamber was on its feet. They were not applauding. They were not cheering. They were showing respect in the oldest way that sentient beings knew. They were acknowledging that they had witnessed something important. A vote was called. It was not close this time. The collective was condemned for its attack. Commander was stripped of his position and sent back to his home world in disgrace. Ambassador was removed from her post. The government publicly apologized to humanity. And a new law was passed. It said that any creature given as a gift became the permanent property of the receiver. No one could take it back. No one could demand its return. What was given forever. But the law was not the most important thing that changed that day. What changed was how the galaxy saw humans. They were no longer primitive newcomers to be ignored or insulted. They were something else, something new. 10 years later was a young woman. She had grown tall, like her father. She had her mother's gentle eyes and her brother's stubborn jaw. She was studying to become a doctor for alien creatures. She wanted to help beings from every corner of the galaxy. She still lived at home when she was not at school. The house had grown over the years. New rooms had been added, new buildings constructed in the garden. Because was no longer alone. Creatures from across the galaxy lived there now. Some had been given to the park family by species who did not know what else to do with them. Some had simply arrived, somehow finding their way to Earth, drawn by stories that had spread through the stars. The human girl who healed the unhealable, the family that turned death into life. Ran the sanctuary now. He had never gone to university. He had found his purpose here, caring for the lost and broken creatures of the galaxy. He was happy. Was older now. Her muzzle was touched with white. She moved a little slower than before, but her eyes were still bright, and she still waited at the door every morning until every member of the family had come downstairs. She still counted them. She still made sure nobody was missing. One morning, a new creature arrived. It was small and with 6 eyes and a body that trembled constantly. It had been abandoned by its owners because it would not stop shaking, would not stop crying. Knelt down beside it. She reached out her hand slowly, carefully. "Do not be afraid," she said softly. "I will not hurt you." The creature looked at her. Its 6 eyes blinked one after another. Then, slowly, it moved closer. It pressed its trembling body against her hand. Behind watched with warm eyes. She knew what would happen next. She had seen it many times. The creature would stop trembling. It would start eating. It would learn that it was safe. It would learn that it was loved. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not technology or military power. Just the simple act of caring about beings who had no one else to care about them. And it changed everything.